Hey, and welcome again to Friday Lab. All those text animation were created with the same GeoNode system. In this way, we only create the system once and then we can use it multiple times. This is what makes GeoNodes so powerful and fun to work with. Okay, so let's jump in and create this bouncing text system. We start with a new Blender file. We can keep it as it is, and we're gonna work on this cube. But remember, it doesn't matter, you can put this geometry node system on any object. We create a new system, and let's call it right away bounce. Okay, and you can see on the right I have this bounce modifier, and we can start to work. The first thing we need to do is get rid of the geometry because we're gonna create our own text. Okay, we're gonna create text, but text in computer programming usually is called string. Okay, and a string is a sequence of characters or letters. So we are gonna search for string to curves, and we're gonna connect from the input a line to the string, so I can control it from out here. And let's see what we get when we connect the curve instance to the geometry. Let's write hello. Boom. As you can see, I have a curve that's just telling me hello. Hey to you too. And from this string, we can control our text. We can use or change the font, the size of it, and so on. And each one of them we can connect to the input to have a better control from here. Great, so we have the outline of the text, but it's hollow and we want to fill it up. So as we say, we want to fill the curves. Okay, we created curves in the instances and we can fill them up with the fill curve. And watch out, as I watch it in wireframe, we don't want this messy geometry. Right now, for this example, we can use the n-gons safely and have much less noisy geometry. Okay, so we have this text. Let's rotate it 90 degrees so we can look straight forward on it. And now we want to add some volume to this text. So we want to extrude. I'm using Blender 3.1 and we were introduced to the extrude mesh node. And it's pretty much like using Solidify, but right now we prefer to do everything inside the geometry nodes system. So from here, I can control the amount of volume or thickness I have on my text. And if you will look from the back, you see this text is hollow. Okay, so we want our first fill mesh to be included as well. And a nice trick I found of doing that is adding join geometry and adding the fill curve I already have. And as you can see, without it, it's empty. With it, I have the text filled from the front and from the back. Great, so we have our text and it is procedurally made. I can change it now to bounce, for example. And now we want to control the movement of those letters. Okay, so the movement we're gonna control before the fill, so we can move everything away a bit. And to control those instances, we're gonna use the node translate instances. And as you can see, I can move them back and forth, up and down, right and left. But the problem is that they are all moving together. If I will isolate, for example, the instances alone, I can see that I have 6 instances of this geometry. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it's gonna say jump, I'm gonna have 4. Okay, so I have 4 individual instances that I can control with the translate. But to control them individually, I need to measure each one of them from something. This something is gonna be an empty. Okay, we're gonna add an empty to our scene, and we're gonna drag and drop him down here to our GeoNode system. We're gonna measure this empty distance from the position of each one of my letters. We're gonna use position for that, and with the help of a bit vector math, we're gonna measure the distance. Okay, the distance of each letter from this position of an object. And as I connect it to my translation, you can see that when the pivot of each letter's pivot is on the left bottom corner, bottom left pivot point, you can see, the result is gonna give me 0. Okay, it means it's not moving. So as I move, you see each letter position is 0, 0 on the E, 0 on the C, 0 on the N, and so on. So first of all, I can see is that I want to move them only on the Y axis, okay, up and down. So I need to combine my elements so I can only take the Y, and the X and Z are gonna still be 0. And I can see that it's moving only up and down. But the result is the opposite of what I want. I want that my empty will make my letters bounce and not vice versa. So I need to remap this result to negative value, or to the opposite. I like to use ramp, color ramp, but you can use map range as well. And color ramp, what it does, first of all, it's clamping my values from 0 to 1. So now, as you can see, the letters will not exceed 1. Okay, if I'm looking from the front, this is 0 and this is 1. And if I'm using color ramp, you see they are moving between 0 and 1. So this is good. And the second thing is that I want to flip the result. Okay, so when the letters are away from my empty, they are on the ground, on their basic position, and when they are close, they are going to 1. Okay, so I already have the result of the bounciness that I wanted, but we want to have a bit more control over it and make it much more fun. So the first thing I want to do is to add a control of the height that those letters can move. And we're gonna multiply with the math node after the color ramp the result. Okay, we're gonna multiply, and the bigger the value, the higher the letter will go. Okay, and a nice trick here is to connect this value to the scale, the size of my empty. In that way, I will be able to control the height by scaling the empty. Okay, you see, when the empty is 1, the value of the multiplier is 1, meaning it does nothing. I scale it up by 2, by 3. You can see the height that each letter will travel is gonna be 3 times bigger. Right now, 3. Okay, let's reset the scale. Alt S. The movement of the letters is very linear. Okay, let's for example look only at the B, and I can see that it's going up at the reaches the maximum height for 1, and straight away moving down. I want a more pleasant movement. Okay, we're talking about motion graphic, about animation. The movement is super important and relevant, and the way we control this movement is by controlling the interpolation of the values. Okay, so I'm gonna add a node between the color ramp and the multiply, and we're gonna use the float curve. Okay, we want a curve, and this curve gives me the ability to control the interpolation. Okay, each letter is moving on this curve. Okay, let's imagine this curve is a line, and the B letter is starting down here, and it's moving up until it's reached the top point 1, and when the empty is moving away, it starts to do the same path downwards. And right now I can see I have a linear graph. Okay, linear up and linear down the same way. Okay, so what I want to do is add a bit more curvy interpolation. Okay, this curve is gonna give me a round result. Okay, if you remember how the Bezier curve look like, it's something like this. Okay, and I can see already my letters are having the same result, but now when I move my empty, you can see that the B is slowing down at the top and accelerating at the bottom. Okay, I have much more nicer result. Of course, you can play with it, you can add crazy different curves and have some funky bouncing animations at the top and at the bottom as well. Boing. Great, but for me, I will be very much satisfied with just a Bezier curve of acceleration and deceleration. Great. Now we can expose some of our elements and controls. For example, if I want to be able to control not only the scale, but I want to control the volume, the width. I want to control the depth of the letters. I can connect this offset scale of the extrude to the input, and then I gonna have it here on the side. Okay, and I can add more volume to my letters. And the last thing is left is to add a material, because if we cannot render it, nobody will see the great thing we did. And right now we have no material. So even if I change this material to something red, I will not see the result, because as we said at the beginning, we disconnected the base geometry. So our geometry nodes is not influenced by our object materials. It doesn't matter if this object is a cube with red materials. We need to tell the geometry to take this material. And we're gonna set this material here as our text material. Okay, this is very simple and easy, and as well we can connect this to the output. Don't worry, the red is a symbol for materials, and now from the geometry nodes we can control what kind of material is assigned to our element. And all that is left now to do is to take the empty, go back to our layout, set a keyframe for first position, go a couple of frames forward, and set another position. Sorry, I forgot to move it. Set another position. And we have a bouncing animation. We are done, and you have this awesome system that can bounce and move your text, and you can change the text and the materials and control the size. Super, super nice system. If you like this, more are coming, and we hope to see you next time. Bye bye.